Hey, in this video we're going to look at the April 2023 Math SAT for the non-calculator section. So let's start. First question says, what is the graph of the equation x squared minus 2? So first, this is a function, obviously, and we have x squared minus 2. First, you have to imagine what x squared would be by itself. So x squared by itself would look something like this. And if you subtract 2, you're shifting it vertically down by 2, so you would end up with something that looks like this. So it looks like B. But something to not get confused with here is the negative 2 is a vertical shift. A horizontal shift would be inside the brackets of the squared. So for example, if we had y is equal to x minus 2 squared, this would be a horizontal shift, not vertical. So on the outside is always going to be vertical. But yeah, so that's question number 1, pretty simple. Question number 2, t is equal to nc, that's just an equation, and it's a particular college program. The given equation relates the cost of tuition, t, in dollars to the number of credits taken, n, and the cost of each credit, c, in dollars, where n and c are positive numbers. So all that this says is that we don't really care about it. T, n, and c are all positive numbers. And then it says which equation correctly expresses c in terms of n and t. So if you have t is equal to nc and you want to solve for c, you would divide both sides by n. So divide by n divided by n. This goes away. So c is equal to t over n. It is that simple, so the answer is C. Question number 3. The linear function f is defined by this. What is the value of f of 4? So to find that, so f of 4, you just plug in 4 into the equation. You get 2 times 4 minus 1, which is 2 times 3, which is equal to 6. So the answer is C. Okay, question number 4. The equation L plus N is equal to 2,000 represents the possible combinations of the amounts of money in dollars that Lucia could invest in 2 bonds, where L and N represent the amount of money in dollars that she could invest in bond L and bond N, respectively. So once again, this is all kind of garbage, to be honest, because all we care about is that we have an equation, and their equation represents combinations of L and N. We don't care what L and N are, to be honest, because it's just grammar stuff that we don't really care about. And then it says, which of the following graphs represents the relationship between the possible combinations of the amount of money? Okay, yeah, so same thing. So basically, how many combinations can you get from this, and which graph represents those combinations? So let's look at the first graph, and let's kind of look at the points on the graph. So a point on this graph would be here. It would be 0, 1000. And now you have to ask yourself, is 0 plus 1000 equal to 2000? No, 0 plus 1000 is 1000. So this is an invalid point, which means that this must be an invalid graph, because for this to be a valid graph, every point on it would have to be correct. Since we already found a point that is wrong, it probably means that every other point is wrong, which is true, but we don't even have to check, because if one point is wrong, the entire graph is wrong. So yeah, if you did check more points, this would have also been wrong, because this is at 1000, 0. So same thing, 1000 plus 0 is not 2000. So yeah, A is wrong. B, let's try this time. Let's take the same point again. So over here, this would be 2000 and with a 0 at the beginning, so 0, 2000. Is 0 plus 2000 2000? Yes. So this is a valid point. And this would also be a valid point here, because this would be 2000, 0, and 2000, 0 is a valid point, so this is also correct. And let's check one more just to be sure. So over here would be 1000, 1000. Basically, I'm reading this and this. So is 1000 plus 1000 2000? Yes, this is correct. So B so far is the correct answer, but let's make sure it is the correct answer by checking the other ones. So for C, you would have this as 0, 3000. This is already invalid because 0 plus 3000 is not 2000. So C is wrong. And for D, let's take this point again. This would be 0, 4000. And this is invalid once again because 0 plus 1000 is not 2000. So the answer must be B. Question number 5. In Pacific Northwest Native American cultures, people make totem poles to depict family legends and historical events. Joan made a totem pole in X hours. Okay, so he spent a total amount of X hours making the pole. He spent 1/6 of the total time designing the pole. He spent 1/3 of the total time sketching the design, and then 1/4 of the total time doing this design, and the remaining 24 hours of the total time sanding and painting the pole. And then the question is, which of the following equations can be used to determine the total number of hours x he spent making the totem pole? Okay, so first we know that he spent x amount in total. He spent x amount of hours to make the totem pole. And then after that, what we know is that he spent 1/6 of the time designing the pole. So 1/6 of x is that. And then he spent 1/3 of the total time sketching the design, so plus 1/3 of x, because once again, x is the total time, so a third of it was spent on the sketching, and then a fourth of it was on chiseling, so plus 1/4 x, and then the remaining 24 hours, so plus 24, is the time that he spent sanding and painting the pole. Okay, so basically what we made here was an equation of how we split up the timings that it took the person to do whatever he wanted to do with the pole. So now we have to kind of look at all these options. We know that we have x is equal to something, which we already have, so that's good, that's correct. Now we know that plus 24 is in all of them, so this part is also correct because 24 hours was always there. But now we need to figure out which fraction part is correct, because that's the only part that changes in each multiple choice answer. So we would have to combine these and see what fraction we get in order to see which answer is the correct answer. So this is pretty easy, but just add up the fractions together. So 1/6 plus 1/3 plus 1/4. Common denominator, basically find an LCM. Common denominator is 12, so multiply this by 2, this by 2, multiply this by 4, and this by 4, and then multiply this by 3, and this by 3. We would have 2/12 plus 4/12 plus 3/12. If you add these up, 2 plus 4 plus 3, so 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 3 is 9, so 9/12. And if you simplify, 9/12 is equal to 3/4. So now we know that x is equal to 3/4x plus 24. All I did was I combined all these three like terms to become 3/4x. That's it. And now, does this match any answer? Yes, it does. It matches D, so the answer is D. So pretty simple. Question number 6. Which expression is equivalent to the 4th root of 8 to the power of 9? This is super easy. It's a rule that you have to memorize. But if you have kind of a root, whatever the root is, it would be the denominator of the fraction of an exponent. So this would be a to the power of 9 over 4. Once again, since this is the 4th root, that 4 will go on the denominator of the fraction, and that's it. So this is literally your answer. It's a rule that you memorize. The answer is A. So we are done. Question number 7. A circle in the xy plane has its center at 3, 5, and has a radius of 6. What is an equation of the circle? Okay, so first, you have to know the equation of a circle in general. It's x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to r squared. So a couple things. First, we have r squared, so the radius squared and not just radius. So if the radius is 6, we know that this must be equal to 6 squared, which is 36. So this is wrong and this is wrong. That means a and b are already invalid. So that's the first start. And then we need to know if it's either both negatives or both positives. This is a bit weird, but for circles, the sign is flipped. So that's why you saw me write negative here, because it would be x minus a and y minus b. Since x is equal to 3, not x, this is a, this is b. A is equal to 3 and b is equal to 5. This would be x minus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared. So both negatives, that means the answer is C. But you have to kind of memorize this. So do that if you haven't already, but that's basically how you get the answer. Question number 8. One of two linear equations in a system is this. So that's the first equation. And then the system has exactly one solution. So there is a possible solution to the system of equations. And it says, which of the following could be the other equation in the system? Okay, so two things to know. In a system of equations, you have like a couple of equations, but here told us there are two equations, so we have 1 and 2. The first one is 3x plus 4y is equal to 8. And then we need to find out which one is the other one to have exactly one solution. That's the goal of the question. So first thing we have to notice is, or first thing we have to know actually, is if you have a ratio between both equations, you do not have a solution. For example, if I told you 3x plus 4y is equal to 8, which we already know, and then I told you 6x plus 8y is equal to 16. All I did was I multiplied this by 2. So I multiplied 3 times 2 to get 6, 4 times 2 to get 8, and 8 times 2 to get 16. This does not tell us anything about the solution because I basically multiplied this to get something else, which is completely wrong because once again, you have to find a new equation, not some sort of change to the equation that we have. So we're looking for common ratios. If you find those, that means they're the wrong answer basically. For the first one in question, so part A, is there any common ratio between 3 over 2 plus 2 and 3 over 4? Yes. If you multiply 3 over 2 by 2, you get 3. And if you multiply 2 by 2, you get 4. That gives us the 3 over 2 to the 3 and the 2 to the 4. That means this is a common ratio. A must be wrong. Because once again, we're not looking for a common ratio. We're looking for something that's not a ratio. Over here, the next one, we have the exact same numbers actually. So we have 3 and 4, and we have 3 and 4. So this must be wrong already because it's not even a ratio. We literally copy-pasted the solution with another number, but this number doesn't really matter that much. What matters most is the actual variable coefficients instead. So B is for sure wrong. C, let's check this. 4 and 3. Are these any common ratios of 3 and 4? No. Even though they might look like it because we flipped them, but there's no way you can get from 4 to 3 because you would need to multiply by 3 over 4. But then to get from 3 to 4, you'd need to multiply by 4 over 3. So it's not the same multiple that we're multiplying by. That means it's not a common ratio. That means, for now, we know that C is the correct answer. But just to make sure, let's check D. So for D, how do you get from 6x plus 8y to 3x plus 4y? You divide by 2. So if you divide 6 by 2, you get 3. And if you divide 8 by 2, you get 4. Is this a common ratio? Yes, because we're going to do it in green. 6 divided by 2 equals 3. 8 divided by 2 equals 4. Since we can divide by 2, that means this equation is a common ratio, so it's wrong. The answer must be C. So pretty simple. Question number 9. X squared minus 3x minus 1 is equal to 0. Which is one of the solutions of the given equation? Okay, so if you see a quadratic here, if you see an exponent of 2, you already know this is going to be a quadratic formula. And if you haven't already, you need to memorize this. But it should be negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. This is a quadratic formula. You have to memorize it to be able to answer these type of questions. So first, negative b. What is b? b is negative 3. So negative of negative 3 is equal to 3. That means so far in the equation, I'm going to do it in red. We're going to have 3. And then plus minus the square root of b is negative 3. What is negative 3 to the power of 2? That's equal to 9. So I'm going to write 9 in here, so 9. And then minus 4 times a times c. In this case, we would have 4 times a is 1 because there's nothing here. So a must be 1, so times 1. And then after that, c is going to be negative 1. So times negative 1. And then all of this is over 2 times 1 because, once again, a is equal to 1. So that's that. And let's try solve this a bit. This would be 3 plus minus the square root of 9 plus 4 because there are 2 negatives. 2 negatives make it positive, so 9 plus 4 over 2. This is the exact same as 3 plus minus the square root of 13 over 2. Are any of these matching to what we got? Yes. D is correct because we have 3 here. We don't have negative 3. So the first two have negative 3, so they're both wrong. And then in the next one, it has the square root of 5. This is because they tried to trick you and make you think this would be 9 minus 4. If this was 9 minus 4, because you might have forgotten this negative sign over here, so be careful of that. But if you forgot that negative sign, you'd have had C as your answer, but that's wrong because the answer is D. So pretty simple. Question number 10, the function this gives the perimeter in meters of a rectangle that has a width of x meters. So that's it basically. And then which of the following is the best interpretation of 2x plus 1 in this context? Okay, so if you have the perimeter in meters of a rectangle, if you have the perimeter in general, you would have 2 of the width plus 2 of the length. That's how you find the perimeter of a rectangle. So P is equal to this. We know that it told us that the width is x. So we would have perimeter is equal to 2x plus 2L. In this case, if you look back at the original equation, I'm going to erase the green line, but we have this part over here. The 2x is for the width, and then the 2 times 2x plus 1 must be the length if you follow this formula, because we are multiplying 2 by 2x plus 1. So the 2x plus 1 must be the length because the 2 is already there on both. So what interpretation is this? It is the length in meters of the rectangle. That's it. So that's question 10, pretty simple. Question 11, line K has a slope of -4/5 and an x-intercept of this, and we do not know r because it's just a variable, where r is a constant. So yeah, it's a variable constant that we don't know yet. And then it says, what is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept of line K in terms of r? Okay, basically it's asking you where the y-intercept is of this line. So first, let's kind of visualize this. I'm going to draw a small graph. We would have something that looks like this, and then since the slope is -4/5, it would be going downwards, something like that, and then we would need to find where the y-intercept is. So that's basically it. First, we have to know what the equation of the line is. We know that any linear line has the format of y is equal to mx plus b. Here m is -4/5 because it has a slope, so y is equal to -4/5x plus b. Now we know that this point over here, r over 2 comma 0, is on the line. Once again, since we don't know what r is, it doesn't mean we cannot use it. What we're going to have is that we're going to have this equation in terms of r, but we can still use it because it's something that we know. So let's plug this in. We would have 0 is equal to -4/5 times r over 2 plus b. So if you multiply this out, 0 is equal to -4r over 10 plus b. So b is equal to 4r over 10, which is equal to 2r over 5. Okay, so we got what b is. Now, let's plug it back into this equation. We would have, I'm going to do it in a different color. So yeah, we would have y is equal to -4/5x plus 2r over 5, because that's what b is. And then last step, so we are trying to find where the y-intercept is. If you think about it, the y-intercept happens when the x value is 0. So this is 0. That means if x is 0, let's plug that in. Y is equal to -4/5 times 0 plus 2r over 5. And anything multiplied by 0 goes away. So y is equal to 2r over 5. That is the y value of the y-intercept. And which of these is the correct answer? It must be B. So pretty simple. Small recap, we found out the equation of the line by plugging in a point, which gave us this. And then after that, you just plug in x is equal to 0, because that's where the y-intercept is, and you find out what the y value is. Pretty simple. Question number 12, a sphere and a right circular cylinder both have radius r. The height of the cylinder is 18, so that's very important. And then it's asking us for what value of r will the volume of the sphere be twice the volume of the cylinder. So we want the volume of the sphere, so S, to be twice the volume of the cylinder. This is also pretty important that we got from here. Okay, so the volume of any sphere, this is on the first page of the SAT, but yeah, sphere is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. That's the volume of the sphere. Volume of a cylinder, pretty similar, but so for the cylinder, it would be equal to pi r squared times the height. And now we know that the height is equal to 18. So instead of saying h, I can say multiply by 18, the exact same thing. After that, we need s to be equal to 2c. I'm going to start doing this in red. But yeah, so s is equal to 2c. That means we have 4/3 pi r cubed is equal to 2 times pi r squared times 18. After that, let's start canceling stuff out and solving for r. The pi goes away on both ends. The r squared goes away, and this exponent goes away. So we would end up with 4/3 r is equal to 2 times 18 is equal to 36. So 36. And let's solve for r. So r is equal to 36 times 3/4, which is equal to 27. That means the answer is C. Pretty simple. Question number 13, we have -2 times the absolute value of x minus 5 is equal to -4x. And then the question is, what are all the possible solutions to the given equation? So pretty simple, solve for x. So first, what we can do is get rid of this -2, because we don't want it. So we can divide both sides by -2. This will give us the absolute value of x minus 5 is equal to -4x divided by -2 is 2x. So that's that. And now this is where the complicated part gets in, because this is when we actually start solving for the absolute value sign. But we know that the absolute value can either give you a negative or positive answer. That means x minus 5 can either be equal to 2x, or x minus 5 can also be equal to -2x. Those are the two possible solutions for any absolute value question. And then after that, you would have solve for x basically. So bring the 2x here, or let's actually bring the x here just to make it easier. You would have -5 is equal to x, so that's the first one. And then you would have, in this one, let's bring the -2x here. It would be 3x minus 5 is equal to 0. And then bring the 5 here. You would have 3x equal to 5, so x is equal to 5 over 3. So these are both answers. Is that the final answer? No. So this is a super trick question, but for absolute values, you have to check your answer, because in this case, we have x on both sides. So the answer is not going to be done here. We have to manually plug both solutions in and see what answer is actually correct. So if you plug in -5, let's assume we're actually solving this. For the left side, you would have -2 times the absolute value of -5 minus 5. Okay, this would be -2 times the absolute value of -10 is 10. So -2 times 10 is equal to -20. And then on the right side, you would have -4 times -5, because all I'm doing is I'm plugging in -5 into x. This would be 20. Is the left side equal to the right side? Is -20 the same as 20? No. That means this was a trick question. -5 is not a solution. So we can cross that out. Let's do the exact same check for the other solution. For the left side, I'm going to do this in red. So left side, you would have -2 times the absolute value of 5 over 3 minus 5. And then this would be equal to -2 times 5 over 3 minus 5. Let's put a common denominator. So multiply 5 to become 15 over 3. So 5 over 3 minus 15 over 3 is -10 over 3. And then if you actually solve this, this would be -2 times 10 over 3, which is equal to -20 over 3. Because once again, this is absolute value, so the negative goes away. So that's the left side. The right side, you would have -4 times 5 over 3. And -4 times 5 is -20, and the denominator stays the same. So is -20 over 3 the same as -20 over 3? Yes. So this is a correct solution. That means the answer is only B and not C, because -5 is not a solution. So that's a bit of a trick question, but you might see it on an SAT because it's full of trick questions. But yeah, question number 14, we have f of x is equal to 3 over 4 to the power of x plus 5. And then if the function f is graphed in the xy plane, so this is a fancy word for saying graph the function. So we don't worry about that too much. All that means is that you're going to have a graph and you want to like draw it on the graph. So something you already know how to do. And then the question is so what is the y-intercept of the graph? So once again, the y-intercept happens when x is equal to 0. That means we're going to have 0, comma y as the point of interest. So let's plug in 0 into x. So f of 0 is going to be equal to 3 over 4 to the power of 0 plus 5. Anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So this is equal to 1 plus 5, which is equal to 6. That means our point is going to be 0, comma 6. So yeah, pretty simple. That's D. Once again, for any y-intercept, you already know that the x value is going to be 0. So from the start, we could have already crossed these out because the x value is not 0. So that's that. But yeah, and then if you get super stuck, you can literally just guess between both answers and see what you get. But I don't recommend that, obviously, because you can find it. But if you get super stuck, you can always guess. Okay, question number 15. We have a function here. We have this. And then the question is, what is the minimum value of the given function? So first, since we see an x here and an x here, we know that when you multiply them out, we're going to have f of x is equal to something, 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 and we're going to have x squared involved in the question. That means that if we have x squared, we have a parabola. And you should know this, but if you have a parabola, it means that there's symmetry. So I'm going to kind of give it a sketch. But But yeah, this is a function, and we would have something that looks like this maybe. So if you have a parabola, let's say these are two x-intercepts, the minimum would be exactly in the center. So if you draw this, it would be here. So this distance would be equal to this distance. They are the exact same. So that would mean that if you find where the x-intercepts are, if you find where this is, and then find where the middle is, you can plug this point back into f of x and see what the value of f is. So let's do that. But first, let's write this out again. So f of x is equal to 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 5. So first, how do you find the x-intercepts? They are on y is equal to 0. That's where all the x-intercepts happen, kind of on this line. So that would mean that you want this to be 0. So 0 is equal to 2x plus 3 times 2x minus 5. Once again, all I did was, since all the x-intercepts happen when y is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. I just plugged it in. I did nothing special. And then after that, solve for x. So what are the possible values of x? You can either have x to be equal to negative 3 over 2. Basically, bring the 2 down and change the sign. So it was positive, it becomes negative. And then for this one, bring the 2 down again and change the sign from negative to positive. So this would be comma, 5 over 2, and positive. So those are the two possible values for x. Those are the x-intercepts. Okay, let's draw a number line now. I'm going to do it in orange. But yeah, so this is a number line. If 5 over 2 is somewhere over here, and negative 3 over 2 is somewhere over here, we want to find where the middle of this is. I'm going to kind of draw a small bar kind of like this. But yeah, this would be the midpoint where the minimum value would occur. So how do you find the minimum value? First, we want to find the distance between both of these points. So between this and this. So subtract both points. You would have 5 over 2 minus negative 3 over 2. Once again, what this does is that it tells you the distance between both points in general. Okay? After that, let's actually evaluate this. This would be the exact same as 5 over 2 plus 3 over 2, which is the exact same as 8 over 2, which is just 4. That means the distance here is 4. Okay, if you split it up in half, 4 divided by 2 is 2. That means the distance here is 2, and the distance here is 2. Okay, pretty simple. Now let's find where the middle point is by going 2 backwards from 5 over 2. Since this is a distance of 2, let's subtract that from 5 over 2. So 5 over 2 minus 2 is the exact same as 5 over 2 minus 4 over 2, because I want a common denominator. And then this would be 1/2. Okay, so if you look at the options here, is 1/2 a possible answer? Yes. Is the correct answer? No, because we're not done yet. This is a trick question. Take your time. Don't do it fast. Do it right, basically. So this is the x value of where the minimum value happens. But the question is, what is the minimum value? Not where it happens, but what is it? So to find that, you would have to plug in 1/2 into the function. So you'd have to find out what f of 1/2 is. If you find this would be your answer to where the minimum is. So let's find that. This would be equal to 2 times 1/2 is 1 plus 3, and then 2 times 1/2 is 1 again. So times 1 minus 5, not 1/2. This would be 1 minus 5. If you do this, you would end up 1 plus 3 is 4. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. And this is what your minimum value is. So the answer is A. Okay, so once again, if you find an answer that is one of the multiple choices, it doesn't mean you have the final answer yet. It just means that it actually means nothing, to be honest. But yeah, you just have to keep going until you are sure that the final answer you got is the right answer. But yeah, so negative 16 is correct. Let's move on to these. So yeah, basically now we're done the multiple choices. The next 5 questions are going to be actual, like, written, find the solution by yourself type of thing. Okay, so the first question, question 16, says, what value of x satisfies the equation here? So basically, solve for x. How do you do that? So you subtract 1 over 4 from both sides. So 1 over 8x would be equal to 1/2 minus 1 over 4. So 1 over 8x is equal to 2 over 4 minus 1 over 4. So 1 over 8x is equal to 1 over 4. So far, so good. And then after that, if you are dividing by 8, to get rid of it, multiply both sides by 8. So multiply by 8, multiply by 8. So x would be 1 over 4 multiplied by 8, which is equal to 8 over 4, which is equal to 2. So that is your answer. So we're basically done. That's question 16. Question number 17, the expression here is equivalent to 1 over 3 x to the power of b, where b is a constant and x is greater than 0. So yeah, basically find the value of b if these are equivalent. Okay, so first, how did they get 1 over 3? Pretty simple. They got that by doing 4 divided by 12. Because if you simplify that, you would get 1 over 3. So that's the fraction part. And then this is once again an exponent rule that you have to memorize. But if you have division of variables with the same base, so x divided by 11, x to the power of 11 divided by x to the power of 5, this would be x to the power of 11 minus 5, which is equal to x to the power of 6. So in this case, what is b? If it is the same format, b must be 6 because they end up in the same spot. So b is equal to 6. Pretty simple. I'm going to attach the link on top right now of the video to doing exponents and working with them because they're pretty important. Question number 18. In right angle triangle ABC, so first we draw a right angle triangle like this. Angle C is a right angle. So this is angle C. I'm going to actually write it on the inside. This is angle C. And then sine A is equal to 0.7. What is the value of cosine B? Okay, and then it doesn't really matter which ones you name A and B. So I'm going to name this A. I'm going to name this B. Okay, so sine A. First, we know that sine A is equal to opposite over hypotenuse because SOHCAHTOA. This is an abbreviation. Basically, it's trigonometry. So sine of this angle would be, let's say this is X, this is Y, this is Z. Sine A would be opposite over hypotenuse. It would be x over z. So sine A is equal to x over z. Okay, so we got that so far. And then what is the value of cosine B? Let's find that. Cosine B would be equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, which is also equal to x over b. So cosine B is equal to x over z. So since these are the exact same thing, that means sine A and cosine B are the exact same. That means cosine B must be equal to 0.7. So the trick in this question wasn't finding what cosine B is. It was noticing that cosine B and sine A are the exact same. Because once you notice that, you already have sine A. That means you can just say that cosine B is the exact same thing. Question number 19, second last question. The function f is defined by this. If f of h minus 5 is equal to 0, where h is a constant, what is one possible value of h? Okay, so first, if we're trying to find f of h minus 5, plug in h minus 5 into R. So f of h minus 5 would be equal to h minus 5 in bracket minus 1. I just put in h minus 5 here. So yeah, minus 1, big bracket, multiplied by h minus 5, small bracket again, plus 2, big bracket squared. So let's kind of simplify this. This would be h minus 6, because negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6, times h plus or minus 3 squared. So it says what is one possible value of h, where this is equal to 0. So this is f of h minus 5. It tells us that it's equal to 0. So 0 is equal to h minus 6 times h minus 3 squared. What is one possible value of h? Over here, this can be 6, because 6 minus 6 is 0, so that's one possible value. H is equal to 6. Another possible value, pretty simple, you can actually find both super easily, but it would be 3, because 3 minus 3 is 0, so h can either be 6 or 3. That's the final answer. But a common mistake here would have been to ignore this and trying to expand h minus 3 squared and then getting a whole big answer that you don't need. So the trick is here to notice that you can stop at this point and finding what the solutions are from here. So that's the trick of this question, but we're done. And the last question, we have two equations, and then the solution to the given system of equation is x comma y. What is the value of x? Okay, so basically solve for x. Okay, what I like to do here is first notice things that you can get rid of. Can you get rid of anything? Not really, because we have 8x, 18x, we have 10y, 15y. So if you make one of these the same, that means you can either add or subtract both equations to get rid of that thing. So what I'm going to do is multiply this equation by 2 over 3. This would give us 10y, because 15 times 2 over 3 is equal to 10. That means, you're going to see what I'm going to do, but if I end up with 10y is equal to something, I can get rid of that y because there's a very nice trick in math. But yeah, just follow along and you would understand. But yeah, so the first equation stays the same. First equation is going to still be negative 8x minus 24 is equal to 10y. So that's the first one. Second one, this is the one that changes. 15 times 2 over 3 is, like we said, 10. This would be 10y is equal to, and then 6 times 2 over 3, this would be 12 over 3, which is equal to 4. So is equal to 4. And then 18 times 2 over 3, this would be 36 over 3, which is equal to 12. So minus 12x. Now we have both new equations, and we have two things that are similar. We have a 10y here, and we have a 10y here. That means if 10y is equal to this, and at the same time 10y is equal to this, we can equate them to each other. Because I'm going to write it here. So negative 8x minus 24 is equal to 10y, which is also equal to 4 minus 12x. That means negative 8x minus 24 must be equal to 4 minus 12x, because all these are equal. So this must be equal to this as well. Okay, after that, let's solve for x. So bring the 12x here, add 12x to both sides basically, so plus 12x plus 12x. You would end up with 4x minus 24 is equal to 4. And then after that, add 24 to both sides, so plus 24 plus 24. 4x is equal to 28. And then divide both sides by 4, you would end up with x is equal to 7. And that is your final answer. And we are done because we found out what x is. And that was what the question was asking for. So yeah, that's it, and we're done. And that's it for the video as well. So hopefully you enjoyed this video.